Hi, welcome to my first video for Bull Squash. Just a quick YouTube channel that I created just to basically go over various squash topics, game analysis. I have a few other ideas of topics, some more controversial than others, that I'll bring up in later episodes, but I thought today we'd start with something pretty simple, go over the Black Ball Open, the men's draw. I was going to do the women's draw, but unfortunately I had an issue with my microphone and my webcam last week, and I'm just starting to learn a bit about streaming, so definitely I would love to hear some comment or receive some comments about how I'm doing, if there's any sort of suggestions for other videos or any comments on this video. But this one will be pretty simple. We're just going to go over the draw, make some bold, well, probably not so bold predictions, and yeah, just go from there. And honestly, I am a little disappointed not to have done the women's draw. Was looking pretty good, although today is Monday, March 15th, and we found out that Nuran Gohar ended up getting the boot from the tournament for breaching COVID protocol. I've read an article by Alan Thatcher saying that it might have been to do with her going to the gym at the private hotel they were at, but it's not confirmed. I feel bad for her, but it really opens up that half of the draw, and it's something I might do next week just to discuss in a recap video for the whole tournament, both men's and women's. But today we'll go with the men's draw, so we'll start off with Ali Farag getting the bye. We'll getting the bye. So we'll just go each round. So I have the top half on one side of the page. I have the bottom draw on the right side. Fun fact, sweet March Madness draws are aplenty on the internet, so much more useful than creating my own for squash. Okay, so keep going. So, bye. Alright, our first actual match, Lionel Cadenas versus Declan James. So this matchup is pretty easy on paper. I think Declan's just going to play way too straight, way too tight, and he's a very good finisher of the ball. I don't think Lionel will be able to put Declan James in enough physical duress, which is kind of his only weakness. So this seems like a pretty easy 3-love. Alright, Alan Klein versus Ahmed Ismail. Haven't looked up Ahmed before. Looking at most of the wild cards in this tournament, and the same with the women's draw. The wild cards here aren't necessarily very good. They're probably members of the club and don't necessarily have any other way to get into to highlight the club's presence in professional squash. So it's nice that they get them on the courts here, but honestly I wasn't a big fan of, I can't even remember the player's caught, I can't even say her name, Nadine caught something, and they had a 15-year-old player. Just not really any competition, not something I would really want to see on PSA. I'm a subscribing member. Maybe you could have done one of the other side court matches instead, but hey, it's always good to get, if it's a good 15-year-old and they're developing, then sure. But I don't think that was the case. I don't know too much about Ahmed, but I'm going to just assume that Alan Klein's too experienced to take this in anything but 3. Mossad gets the bye. Greg Lobet versus Rama Tandon. Greg's been working really hard. He had a good win against Kareem Abdul-Gawad last year. He seems really tough. Another 3-love. These first rounds typically go that way, it would seem. Fares Dasuki gets the bye. Right. Gawad, you get a bye. So do you, Zahed. Alright, Mohamed Al-Sharbagi. Let me see if I can actually spell that right. Mohamed Al-Sharbagi versus Benjamin Aubert. I've only seen Benjamin once, and I've seen Sharbini a couple times. I just feel that Benjamin's a good grinder. He has very good physical ability, but not particularly accurate, not particularly attacking enough. And Mohamed has a very simple game, and I really actually like it. It seems like he developed later, so he's not at that same, in tune with the top Egyptian players, but I really think this will be fairly easy to him, but more of a 4-gamer rather than a 5. I was thinking 5 initially, but I'll go with 4 on this one. I can't honestly say his name. Mahesh Gankar. Okay, I'll have to try find a better pronunciation for that. Anyway, versus Matthew Castanet. Well, I'll only have to try to say his name once because he won't win this. This will be a 3-love to the more experienced and just probably physically stronger Castanet. Rodriguez, you get a bye. Gregoire Marsh, you get a bye. Okay, Yin Yao Ying versus Ahmed Whale. Again, wild card. Yin's getting a lot stronger. I really think he's on the cusp, but he just hasn't quite gotten that development point yet, where he's really confident. He hasn't had that big win where he can kind of move on and start challenging, say, other top 10 players, maybe from the 15 to 8 range ranked players. I give him the win, but this might be a 4-gamer if he's, depending on how he's feeling. I'm not sure what tournaments he's played in up until then, so this might be his first taste of action. And then Taric Moment, you get a bye. Okay, let's go to the other side of the draw. Okay, Paul Cole, you get a bye. Todd Harity versus Nicholas Mueller. I like Todd Harity's game. I think he's a bit more structured than Nicholas Mueller. Nicholas Mueller has better attacking shots, a bit more flair. At this point, he's pretty experienced, but I also don't think he's going to really improve any more than where he's at right now. Bit of a tough matchup. I'm actually going to call this Nicholas Mueller in 5. It's just going to be a bit of a grind at the end, but it's still a match that'll probably go around 70 minutes. Just the last phase might be a bit more physical, but they'll be trading a little bit more. Gregory Gautier versus Victor Cruen. I was really hoping Victor Cruen would be sort of the guy who would take over from Gregory Gautier on the French squad. I still think he can. He's only 21, going on 22 if he's not already there. But I was a little disappointed for him to have lost 3-0 to Gregoire Marsh at the French Nationals. I don't necessarily know the context of that. I never saw the match, unfortunately. So he had a lot of dominant wins over Lucas Cern. So my hope is that was maybe a blip, or he needs to be able to start beating those types of players. And I think Gregoire Marsh, as good as he is more than beatable. I think Victor Cruen, to get to that next step, needs to start making those wins. Gregory Gautier is plenty experienced. He's played a few of the Czech tournaments, but nothing overly competitive. I'm going to give this to Gregory in 4, but I'm really hoping that I'm wrong and that Victor Cruen wins this, because I want to see him become sort of the next big French player. Okay, George Parker versus Yusuf Solomon. So I really like George Parker's game. He's so attacking, big guy, but really, really accurate. It just gets into his head. Yusuf Solomon is just a pure grinder, and this is going to be a bit of an interesting matchup, because I think if Yusuf can actually force George to move around a lot, he's a big guy, there is the potential for him to just tire out, start making loose shots, getting frustrated, and hitting the 10. This is one of those, and especially if they put this on a side court, I could see on a more traditional court this just really going the distance. If that's the case, I think George has a lot of tenacity. I'm going to give it to him in 5. Tough matchup. I think this will be one of the best first round matches we have. Lucas Cern versus Dimitri Steinman. Easy Lucas Cern. I haven't seen a lot of Dimitri Steinman. Maybe an odd match, but just the quality's not there. As Lucas Cern isn't necessarily a great finisher of the ball, I find, but I just think physically it's just going to be too much for Dimitri. Richie Fowles versus Yusuf Ibrahim. I'm a huge fan of Yusuf Ibrahim. I love his game. I think he has the potential to be a top-end player. I was a little worried. He is a British Junior Open champion, I believe, but he didn't win the World Juniors, even though he was in his final year ranked number 1, but end up losing in the semis. He's close. I think that he just has a little bit of issues knowing when to attack and when not to, and when to grind. It seems like he got better, obviously, with beating Mohammed Al-Sharbagi. Richie's a good player, but I don't think he's accurate enough. I think Yusuf is just going to twist and turn him and hit enough winners versus errors that he'll overcome Richie Fowles. I'm going to actually give it to him in 3. I want to see Yusuf do really well at this event. Borea Golon versus Cream El Hamami. All right, El Hamami. This is, oh, right. Wrong El Hamami. He's good. I don't think he's going to beat Borea Golon. Borea Golon's just way too solid. Has a very deceptive backhand. Just holds the ball very well, and still, at his age, very physical. I haven't seen a whole lot of Kareem Hamami, except he looks too much of a grinder. Gonna give it to Borea on 3. Marwan, you get a bye. All right, Joel Macon, bye. Patrick Rooney versus Rafael Candra. I actually do like. I've seen Patrick once or twice. He has a good game. This actually, I think, is going to be an upset. Rafael Candra is very physical, good attacking player, can have inaccurate moments, but is really strong at just retrieving balls all the time. So I think that Patrick is going to stick with a much more simple game, and I'm actually going to give it to him in 4. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Rafael Candra. He can be exciting, but he can also just frustrate you because he makes so many errors when he himself is frustrated. Bernabo versus Khan. Shahajan Khan is coming into this tournament replacing, I believe it was Salazar. He's just, I think he's just a step below everyone else in the field. Bernabo is very good physically. He's actually a pretty good attacking player. One to watch for the future if he can get a little stronger, work on his accuracy. But I give it to Bernabo in 3. Mazin, you get a bye, and apparently a reprieve from the army. Tom Richards versus Edmond Lopez. Don't know much about Edmond Lopez. Either way, I'm going to give it to Tom Richards. He's still a great athlete. He's getting a bit older, but a lot more experience, and he's a fairly good grinder as well. So if he ever gets in trouble, he can retrieve decently and anticipates the ball decently well. Sourav Ghosal, you get the bye. Baptiste Mizzoti versus Vikram Mohaltra. Again, not knowing what Vikram's done in the break. Baptiste Mizzoti, I think, is a good player, very attacking, anticipates, but also volleys aggressively. I like his game. I just think he's going to be too much physically for Vikram, so I'm going to give it to him in 3. And Sharbagi, hey, you already got a bye. I think that's just great. All right, round 2. Okay, so this is kind of where I feel bad for Abelgar. I don't necessarily agree that this is how the seeding should have been. I feel like he is in really good form. He just needs to be able to get a few deeper into tournaments to regain his rank. This is a hard matchup for Ali Farag. We saw last time that it was close. I think he kind of knows what Mohammed Abelgar's strategy, though, will be. I don't think he can deviate too much from what he did last time, so Ali Farag will be pretty prepared for this match. Again, sucks for Mohammed in this case, but hey, what can you do? Ali Farag takes it in, let's say, 4. Asal versus Declan James. Asal's beaten Declan James at age 17. Obviously, that was maybe more of a surprise at the time, so you never know. Maybe Declan James works with his coach and says, hey, you have the advantage here if you, say, lengthen out rallies, but also maintain your attacking. I don't necessarily actually have a strategy in mind that would work against Mustafa Sal that Declan James can do. It would, even being patient, this is why Mustafa Sal is a phenom, because he can play at both high pace and at the slow pace. The only other players that I know that can do that consistently are Sharbagi, Farag, and Ashur. That's it. Like, that's the kind of talent he has. So I don't see Declan James having really any weapons to deal with Mustafa Sal. I'm going to give it to him in 3. I think Mustafa Sal will come into this more professionally than he has in previous matches. Alan Klein versus Omar Mossad. I've been frustrated with Mossad. I think he'll win this match, but Mossad needs to finish matches a bit quicker. I think he needs to be a bit more attacking, but he sometimes makes a lot of mistakes. I think Alan Klein just doesn't have the accuracy to really bother Mossad in this case, but I used to model my game after Mossad, and I feel like he's lost a bit of his attacking play, his finishing edge. He's lost actually quite a few games where he's right close, right at the end, even has game balls and just lets it slip. I feel like mentally he's been stymied a bit in the last couple of seasons. All right, Greg Lobin versus Faraz Dasuki. Whoops. There we go. Greg Lobin, again, good player. I think he and Nick Matthew will work on a strategy that would probably involve slowing down the pace, trying to keep it tight to the wall, and then sort of forcing Dasuki to make a few errors. I don't think Greg Lobin has the consistent enough accuracy to do that, and the patience. You need at the last Blackball Open, you had players like Elias who've consistently beaten Dasuki, Farag who've consistently beaten Dasuki. I assume Moment did, but I think Dasuki stepped up his game, started volleying and anticipating more, and not allowing as many balls to the back. So, to me, Dasuki takes this easy 3-love. He's just way too strong right now. Okay, Gawad versus Salem. I'm going to this assuming Gawad's healthy. I know he was injured. I can't remember if it was heel or something to do with the foot. He'll need to work his way in. I think he will lose the first game. Zahid Salem can be a bit of a head case. He's a good attacking player, but makes bad decisions when he's tired or at the end of games. So Kareem Abdul-Gawad will take this probably in 4, but it could easily be 3 if he's feeling 100% healthy. Al-Sharbagi versus Castanet. I think this is a little bit closer than it would be maybe on paper. I'm still thinking Castanet for the win, but Al-Sharbagi has the talent to do some damage. I just hope he kind of releases himself. He has a bit of confidence in his attacking play, but can match the physicality of Castanet, because Castanet might not make him do enough work in the sense that he'll hit enough severe shots that Sharbini couldn't retrieve and keep the pressure on Castanet. Ultimately, I think Al-Sharbini will just hit enough errors that Castanet will take it, but I think this will be maybe a 5-gamer. I'm going to stick with 4 for now. I think Castanet is of good enough quality that it'll be a 4-gamer. Rodriguez versus Marsh, the battle of the shorties. Marsh just frustrates me at times. He hits way too many tin. He gets himself in bad positions. I think Rodriguez, this is going to be a fun, dynamic match. Lots of running around, lots of tricky shots, but I'll give it to Rodriguez. A little more experience and just knows how to finish off games at the end and just stick with it. Yin versus Taric Moment. Taric Moment's just he is a legitimately solid world number 3. I think he is at that position for a good reason. This shouldn't be a difficult match for him. He's too accurate, too good at the front. Give it to him in 3. Okay, so we'll scooch over to the right. All right, and Paul Cole's first match against Nicholas Mueller. Must have. That's all right. Paul Cole versus Nicholas Mueller. Probably this match is going to be an easy 3-0. I just think that Nicholas Mueller is too inconsistent. He gets frustrated when Paul Cole's just going to absorb. He's just going to keep going back down the wall, keep it tight. At some point in every rally, Nicholas Mueller is going to have to go for something, and I just don't see him doing enough damage from back in the court to actually trouble Paul Cole. This will be pretty easy 3-0. Okay, Gregory Gautier versus George Parker. Gregory Gautier knows how to play guys like George Parker. He's straight George plays very straight, very tight. He has a good attacking game, but Gregory Gautier just knows how to pin guys like these to the back and really stretch out their movement. This should be easy 3 love. Well, he's also coming into, he's 38. Should I say easy 3 love? I'll go for a four gamer. Gregory's good, but he can let one slip at his ripe old age. Cern versus Yusuf Ibrahim. I think as long as Yusuf Ibrahim's patient, this should be actually a relatively easy match. I think Cern's very good physically, but the problem is he can't finish. He cannot hit enough. He doesn't have a very good volley drop into the straight. He usually goes for a volley boast, kind of like his sister, but it's just not effective in the men's game. I don't see him doing enough to disrupt the movement of Yusuf Ibrahim. He's a very good mover, and the problem is if he's settled, he's just going to be very deceptive and force Cern onto the back foot all the time. So Yusuf Ibrahim should take this 3 love. Okay. Borea Golon versus Marwan Al-Sharbagi. Barry versus Marv. I think this is a pretty easy match. Marwan, unfortunately, he did get suspended from the last tournament, so he's had a longer layoff than the other players. But he's just way too solid, just very deceptive. It's going to frustrate Borea. Borea will not be allowed to go to the front very easily. He'll have to chase a lot of shots. Marwan just has this pretty easily. Joel Macon versus Patrick Rooney. I do like Joel Macon, but I also do get frustrated with the fact that he reverts back to being a grinder way too often. I think against a player like Patrick Rooney who will play very straight, very narrow, I still think that Joel Macon will mix it up enough that Patrick Rooney will capitulate at the end. But I can still see this being a 45-minute match, and what happens is in later rounds these multiple 45-minute matches or 45 minutes to an hour matches just keep grinding. I don't care how good of an athlete you are in squash when you're playing 5 matches in 6 days in order to win a tournament. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. You're just not going to be able to make it past the semis that often, and even if you do, the finals is just going to be a write-off. So Joel Macon, but I hope he wins it a little bit quicker. Okay, we got Bernabo versus Mazen Hesham. So this is kind of similar with Marwan or similar to Yusuf Ibrahim. As good as Bernabo is, he's not accurate enough to really force Mazen into corners enough. I know Mazen's not necessarily the most physical player in the sense that sometimes he will look like he gets tired. He, double foots into the front a lot. But I just don't see Bernabo responding very well to Mazen's deceptive length. That's the best thing about Mazen Hesham. He just has an amazing backhand, doesn't use it all the time, and then when his cross court's on, it just forces the opponent back, and then the odd shot he does to the front. And important that he makes it, a bit more uncommon than he used to do in the past, but he's just way too deceptive. Again, Bernabo is just going to be chasing the ball in this match. I give it to Mazen Hesham in 3. I actually think this will be a fairly straightforward victory. Okay, Tom Richards versus Sourav Ghosal. I've seen this a few times. Sourav Ghosal has, to me, the advantage, a little faster, going to attack a lot. I don't think Tom Richards will have enough stamina in this matchup to keep up with Sourav Ghosal's attacking play. They both play a pretty conservative game down the line, but I just think that there'll be enough times where Tom will be forced to the front that eventually he'll be ground down. So I'm going to give this to Ghosal in 4. Okay, so we got Baptiste Mizzoti versus Mohammed Al-Sharbagi. Al-Sharbagi, okay, so I'm assuming that there's no legal issues here, so you have to trust me when I'm assuming that he's not going to be arrested day 1, which we would have heard about by now. Assuming he's at the tournament, maybe he's flying in later. Who knows? Anyway, Baptiste Mizzoti, very good attacking player, but he's not accurate enough when he does increase the pace. And I just feel like Al-Sharbagi is just going to feast on that. You'll see Baptiste Mizzoti just at the end of each game, exhausted, just getting ground down. And Sharbagi will play with him. He will make sure that Mizzoti feels the pain. This will be an easy 3 love. let's go to, whoops, and I should have zoomed out, but yeah, well. All right. Let us zoom out just a little bit here. Okay. Farag versus Assault. This is Assault's worst matchup. Farag, besides just being a very good grinder, what I find about him is he's very smart against a player like Assault, who's a very strong, powerful mover, but still a bigger guy. He knows to play angles, not to hit everything, go for super fine margins at the front. He'll hit across, really twist and turn his opponent. That's where he's actually really good against Cole. So, unfortunately for Assault, I know he will win a major very soon. I think for him to do it sooner, he has to get into a draw where he doesn't play Farag in an early round. In fact, on the opposite side, and then maybe if he gets lucky where Farag loses out in a semi. But for now, this is Farag's match, 3-love. I just think that Farag is just too solid, and this is just a bad matchup for Assault. Just too much twisting and turning going to happen for that big body. Mossad versus Dasuki. Talk about bad matchups. Oh yeah, Mossad will not be able to keep up physically. I do like the fact that in this game, in this match, Mossad can try to be a bit more controlling and patient. That's where Dasuki often has trouble. I just find that now Mossad doesn't really do a good job of taking advantage of loose opportunities. If he's anywhere near inaccurate in the front, Dasuki's just going to run over him. So I think that too much has to go right for Mossad to make this a close matchup. This is an easy 3-love to Dasuki. And we got Gawad versus Castanier. I'll zoom out a little bit more. Not much to say about this one either. Gawad is too deceptive, twists and turns around his opponents all the time. Castanier's good. He can keep in rallies, but I just find that, especially on the volley, when Gawad is using his options of punching straight or going short and making it very deceptive, it puts so much pressure on the movement of his opponent. It tires him out. I think he does that very well against players like Macon. And Castanier's not quite as physical and doesn't quite have the same endurance as Macon or the same counter-attacking ability. So I just see this as an easy 3-love. And also for this tournament, I really feel like Gawad wants to start making statements again, where he's had a couple of bad losses in the last year. I think he really feels like he needs good victories, easy victories, and then make it deeper into a tournament or two. Rodriguez versus Taric Moment. Again, I don't see what Rodriguez can do. Moment's such a good length hitter, and because of that makes his short game just so much more effective. He just plucks things out of the air like they were nothing. I don't think Rodriguez is accurate enough on his cross courts, even on length, to do any real sort of damage. He can, get to the ball in the front, but I feel like his recovery isn't good enough that the follow-up shot can be easily retrieved or reverse the pressure enough. So this is again another 3-love to Taric Moment. All right, we'll skip to the other half. All right, whoops. Let's find it here. All right, Gregory Gautier versus Paul Cole. I think I've seen this match a couple times. This is actually kind of interesting. I honestly think that Paul Cole is just going to outgrind Gregory Gautier here. He's just going to be in a position where all he's going to want to do is keep it straight and tight. And Gautier does have some deceptive shots, but I actually think that Paul Cole might take a bit more initiative. Test out the movement of Gregory Gautier at the front and try to do some hard volleys. It's going to feel a lot like an old Matthew versus Gautier match, where yes, if Gautier is really accurate and is finishing the ball consistently, he might get the win. But at his age, I don't think he has enough of the grind to really to get his way into the match. I do think this might be a 4-gamer. I think Gautier has one really good game in him, but not any more than that. So I'm going to give it to Paul Cole. All right, Yusuf Ibrahim versus Marwan Al-Sharbagi. I wonder if he can scalp two brothers in, well, I guess not 2 tournaments in a row, but 2 out of 3 tournaments ain't bad. Yeah, this is tough. They're both really deceptive. One thing about this matchup, though, is, and from what I've seen with Ibrahim, he can get frustrated with apparent blocks. He can get frustrated when he feels his opponent is being slightly unfair. Now, I know that Marwan did get... he got angry at his previous tournament, ended up getting a suspension, and maybe he's going to feel a little timid or a bit more cautious about taking off the referee. Unfortunately, this matchup may come down to how the referee interprets the movement off the ball from Marwan. I think this is close. I think Marwan has the better racket skill to the back. He's going to get Yusuf forcing the ball a little bit too much to the front. This is close, but I'm going to give it to Marwan. But expect this matchup to have a few moments of looks between the players like, hey, don't block me out, buddy. And we'll see the referee get involved here and there. Okay, this is the match I've been waiting for. Joel Macon versus Mazen Hesham. Now, Mazen's playing really well. I actually think that this could be his if he's patient enough and if he's hitting up on the wall. I find that when he's hitting a little bit higher on the front wall and going deep, it opens up his short game a little bit more. I feel like his opponents, when they're getting forced to the back that way, he is just on top of the cross courts and the volley opportunities. This is tougher. I don't think Joel Macon is going to commit as hard to going, up and down the wall. He's going to mix it up a little bit more. With Mazen, it really will depend on how good Joel Macon's counterplay is going to be here and how good Mazen Hesham's length is. This is going to be tough. In my heart, I would love to see Mazen win this, but my brain is really telling me, no, Joel Macon's going to take this in 4. Again, I really hope this is going to be an exciting, clean match. I feel like the deception for Mazen is going to really contrast well with the dynamic movement of Macon. Sourav Gosal versus Mohammed Al-Sharbagi. Again, Mohammed's here to make a statement. He wants to win this tournament. He wants to show that there is no rust. He hasn't played because of, all the tournaments being in Egypt. He wants to win this tournament badly. He's going to take this 3-love. Again, similarly to other matches where you're playing a top-end player, Sourav just doesn't have the tools. He doesn't have the accuracy to really trouble Sharbagi. So this will be a pretty simple 3-love. Okay, so now we're going to go into, I believe we're in the quarters. Let me just take a look. Zoom out a little bit more. All right, rematch of the final of the last CIB Black Ball Open. I think Farag would have studied this matchup. I think he knows to be a little bit more patient. This isn't going to be an easy match. I think Faraz Dasuki has gone to that next level. I think he's going to try to stay there. He has confidence, so this can be easily a 5-gamer. I think this is going to be a pretty exciting match. I say easily a 5-gamer. Will it be? Maybe, maybe not. I think if it goes 5, it could be Dasuki. So I'm going to say 4 games for Farag. Okay, Kareem El-Dogawad versus Taric Moment. This is a classic matchup. In fact, I'm just going to take a sec to actually see what the head-to-head is. I feel like this should be, Taric Moment should have had most of the wins recently. So if I go and look at the PSA website, just bear with me a sec. Head-to-head with Kareem. Oh, there's a lot of Kareems. Okay. There we go. And Gawad has has in his favor, but they haven't played since 2018. That's tough. And Gawad's won 3 of the last 4 of the last 5. Yeah, it's tough. I guess in a sense that Gawad does have a pretty deceptive game. He will go down the wall, I think, more in this matchup. The only thing I would say here is that maybe at this point, at this juncture of the tournament, Gawad physically, again, not having played for a while, might have the wheels just a little bit rusty. I think Moment actually still takes this. I feel like this one is going to be a matchup where Gawad is going to try to go for a little too much at the front, and Moment will start picking him off. And then once Moment starts forcing Gawad into the front, you will see Gawad trying some of his deceptive shots. I don't think Moment can go into the front as much as he usually does. I think he'll try to go to the back. But this will be a 5-gamer. I think this one will be a long one and probably gas Moment by the time it's all is said and done. So this will have major implications for the remainder of the draw, but for the remainder of Moment's tournament. But he will win that. Okay, we'll go to Marwan versus Paul Cole. So this is always close. I think Marwan has a really good tactic against Paul Cole, slowing it down, forcing Paul Cole to inject the pace. And then anytime that Paul Cole hits loose, Marwan will inject pace, try to go for a finishing shot, but then subsequently reset the rally once Paul Cole has recovered, if he does. Tough match. Paul Cole has taken 2 of the last 3, but they've all been close and tight. Going into this, Paul Cole is going to be very fresh. Marwan might be slightly less fresh. I think the Yusuf might have been a bit more emotional. Tough. I'm going to actually give it to Marwan. I think going into this as well, he might have had a bit more. Basically, he would have gone through the gears against Yusuf. Paul Cole might. I think against Gregory he may, but it depends. If Gregory Gautier brings his best, then yes. If he's kind of weak, then Paul Cole won't have necessarily gotten that exertion yet. So I'm actually going to give it to Marwan, but this will be a 5-gamer. There are some really good matchups in these quarterfinals and going to the semis. All right, Joel Macon versus Mohammed Al-Sharbagi. Tough match. I think that I believe it was at the last Tournament of Champions that Mohammed Al-Sharbagi beat Macon in 3. He knows how to play him now. He lost to him at, I can't remember what tournament was in England, but this court also seems a lot more dead. So Mohammed's attacking shots will just be so much more effective. Even as I'm saying it, I think this will be a 3-love to Mohammed Al-Sharbagi. He knows this matchup. He knows Joel at this point. There's really, again, not much Joel can do except grind a bit more. If Sharbagi's a little tentative on his short game, then yeah, I definitely see that Sharbagi can give up a game, but I don't think he'll give up a match. All right, semi-final time. Zoom out again. Okay, we got. Oops. All right. Hopefully you can see. Unfortunately, it's not distanced very well. Anyway, Farag versus Moment. Not much to say here because at this point, I think Taric Moment's going to be pretty gassed. If he gets through Gawad fast enough, yes, this could be tougher, but I honestly think that Farag does actually really well when he has hard matches in a tournament. He's just way too light and thin. He has like infinite endurance, it feels like at times, except for against Al-Sharbagi. I just have to give this to Farag. In fact, I'm going to give it to him as 3. I think he's very used to this matchup. I don't think Taric Moment's really going to have anything new to bring to the table. So I'm going to give that as a... It'll look like a disappointing matchup. I feel like this will be a quick 3-love. Okay, we got the Battle of the Sharbagis. Again, I think this is a matchup. This is interesting because I do think that both brothers know each other very well. It's not inherently easy. Here's the problem, though. Marwan's going to come off of a matchup against Paul Cole. He's going to be gassed. Mohammed Al-Sharbagi, again, he could give up a game to make it in. It could be very physical. I don't think he would experience the same physicality that Marwan would, though. So to me, I actually think, again, this will be an easy 3-love just because this is a pretty dense tournament. I'm assuming it's like the women's one where there's only really one rest day. So I'm going to give it to Mohammed fairly easily. And that brings us to the final classic 1 versus 2, Ali Farag versus Mohammed Al-Sharbagi. So you have to kind of look at what happened in the course of this tournament. So the Dasuki match was probably going to be the hardest one for Farag. The remainder of them, I think, were fairly easy. He should be coming to this fairly fresh, but same with Sharbagi. But I actually think Sharbagi might come into this even fresher. Not now. I do believe Sharbagi will have rust. One of these matches, even though I've kind of gone and said yes, he's ready, he's going to get 3 loves. One of these matchups could easily be a very difficult. Just difficult from error standpoint. He might just have a bad game, so he physically might actually come into this a little bit hurt. But in all honesty, I think both of these players are just going to be ready to go. There's going to be very little signs of exhaustion until, say, the 4th game. This is going to be a 5-gamer, but if it is going to be a 5-gamer, I give it to Farag. I don't see Sharbagi, with that lack of match play, getting a 5th game. It's just going to be a hill too far. So I am giving this to Farag. Yes, I took the number 1 seed, and it looks like did I take all the seeds? No, I did take Farag. So at least I had a couple upsets hopefully in there. So yeah, Farag wins the tournament. I think this will be pretty exciting. I have been a little disappointed so far with the women's event. I hope it picks up in the quarters and semis. I'm definitely looking forward to tomorrow to watching Sherbini plays Perry, but definitely with Gohar out, kind of takes away a little bit of the competitiveness of that. But I'm really hoping that everyone stays disciplined in this event. Hoping that I'm pretty accurate with my draw, like anybody. But yeah, this was pretty exciting. I haven't gotten to do this before. I think that it's really a good idea for other people to come in and give an opinion on squash, because you don't really see anything outside of PSA. So that was a part of my motivation for doing this, but also just to have some fun and enjoy squash. And I think there's a huge group of people out there that watch professional squash, but get disappointed by the fact that there's no, I would say, third-party analysis or just other forums where people can analyze the game. So I hope that works for everyone out there. Please like, comment, subscribe as well. I am planning on developing the channel further in the next few weeks, getting a logo together, and I have a ton of ideas for videos, but I'd love to hear more from you guys. So yeah, that's it, and I hope you enjoy the tournament. As many people should try to watch this as possible. Luckily it's on Facebook, so for the most part, I think up until maybe the semis they'll have them on. So I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, enjoy. Have a good night.